Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting is a 1997 American drama film, directed by Gus Van Sant, and starring Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Minnie Driver and Stellan Skarsgård. Written by Affleck and Damon, the film follows 20-year-old South Boston laborer Will Hunting, an unrecognized genius who, as part of a deferred prosecution agreement after assaulting a police officer, becomes a client of a therapist and studies advanced mathematics with a renowned professor.
Through his therapy sessions, Will reevaluates his relationships with his best friend, his girlfriend and himself, facing the significant task of confronting his past and thinking about his future. The film received positive reviews and was a financial success. It grossed over $225 million during its theatrical run with only a modest $10 million budget.
It was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including the Academy Award for Best Picture, and won 2 Best Supporting Actor for Williams and Best Original Screenplay for Affleck and Damon. After Williams' death in 2014, it was ranked at number 53 in The Hollywood Reporter's 100 Favorite Films list. Plot: 20-year-old Will Hunting of South Boston is a self-taught, genius-level intellect. Though he works as a janitor at MIT and spends his free time drinking with his friends, Chucky, Billy, and Morgan, when Professor Gerald Lambeau posts a difficult math problem as a challenge for his graduate students, Will solves the problem anonymously, stunning both the students and Lambeau. As a challenge to the unknown genius, Lambeau posts an even more difficult problem.
Will solves the problem, but then flees the scene when Lambeau catches him. At a bar, Will meets Skylar, a British student about to graduate from Harvard, who plans on attending medical school at Stanford. The next day, as Will and his friends fight a gang at the basketball court, police arrive and arrest Will.
Lambeau visits his court appearance and notices Will's intellect in defending himself. He arranges for him to forego jail time if he agrees to study mathematics under Lambeau's supervision and participate in therapy sessions. Will tentatively agrees, but treats his first few therapists with mockery. In desperation, Lambeau calls on Dr. Shawn Maguire, his estranged college roommate, who now teaches psychology at Bunker Hill Community College.
Unlike other therapists, Shawn actually challenges Will's defense mechanisms, and after a few unproductive sessions, Will begins to open up. Will is particularly struck by Shawn's story of how he met his wife by giving up his ticket to the historic Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, after falling in love at first sight.
Shawn neither regrets his decision, nor does he regret the final years of his marriage, after which his wife died of cancer. This encourages Will to build a relationship with Skylar, though he lies to her about his past and is reluctant to introduce her to his friends or show her his rundown neighborhood. Will also challenges Shawn to take an objective look at his own life, since Shawn cannot move on from his wife's death.
Lambeau sets up a number of job interviews for Will, but Will scorns them by sending Chucky as his chief negotiator, and by turning down a position at the NSA. With a scathing critique of the agency's moral position, Skylar asks Will to move to California with her, but he refuses and tells her he is an orphan, and that his foster father physically abused him. Will breaks up with Skylar, and later storms out on Lambeau, dismissing the mathematical research he has been doing.
Shawn points out that Will is so adept at anticipating future failure in his interpersonal relationships that he deliberately sabotages them in order to avoid emotional pain. Will walks in on a heated argument between Shawn and Lambo over his potential. Shawn and Will share, and find out that they were both victims of child abuse. Shawn helps Will to see that he is a victim of his own inner demons and to accept that it is not his fault, causing him to break down in tears. Will accepts one of the job offers arranged by Lambo.
Having helped Will overcome his problems, Shawn reconciles with Lambo and takes a sabbatical to travel the world. When Will's friends present him with a rebuilt Chevrolet Nova for his 21st birthday, he decides to pass on his job offers and drive to California to reunite with Skylar. Sometime later, Chucky goes to Will's house to pick him up, only to find that he is not there, much to his happiness. Shawn finds a letter from Will in his mailbox, which tells him that Will is going to see Skylar.
Mathematics. Patrick O'Donnell, professor of physics at University of Toronto, served as mathematical consultant for the film production. A turning point in the plot occurs when Will chalks up the adjacency matrix begin 0 and 1 and 0 and 1, 1 and 0 and 2 and 1, 0 and 2 and 0 and 0, 1 and 1 and 0 and 0, end math greater than, and its cube, begin 2 and 7 and 2 and 3, 7 and 2 and 12 and 7, 2 and 12 and 0 and 2, 3 and 7 and 2 and 2, end math greater than, is the answer to a challenging problem based on a graph posted by Professor Lambo. Development. Matt Damon originally started writing the film as a final assignment for a playwriting class he was taking at Harvard University. He wrote his girlfriend, at that time, medical student Skylar Satinstein, into his script.
Satinstein is credited in the closing credits of the film. He met Ben Affleck, and the two finished the screenplay together. At first, it was written as a thriller about a young man in the rough-and-tumble streets of South Boston who possesses a superior intelligence and is targeted by the FBI to become a G-man.
Castle Rock Entertainment president Rob Reiner later urged them to drop the thriller aspect of the story and to focus on the relationship between Will Hunting and his psychologist. At Reiner's request, screenwriter William Goldman read the script, and further suggested that the film's climax ought to be Will's decision to follow his girlfriend Skylar to California.
Goldman has consistently denied the persistent rumor that he wrote Good Will Hunting or acted as a script doctor. In his book Which Lie Did I Tell?, Goldman jokingly writes, "I did not just doctor it. I wrote the whole thing from scratch." Before dismissing the rumor as false, Castle Rock bought the script for $675,000 against $775,000, meaning that Damon and Affleck would stand to earn an additional $100,000 if the film was produced, and they retained sole writing credit. However, studios balked at the idea of Affleck and Damon in the lead roles, with many studio executives stating that they wanted Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. At the time, Damon and Affleck were meeting at Castle Rock. Kevin Smith was working with Affleck on Mallrats and with both Damon and Affleck on Chasing Amy.
Castle Rock put the script in turnaround, and gave Damon and Affleck 30 days to find another buyer for the script, who would reimburse Castle Rock the money paid, otherwise the script reverted to the studio, and Damon and Affleck would be out. All the studios that were involved in the original bidding war for the screenplay now each turned the pair down, taking meetings with Affleck and Damon only to tell them this to their face. As a last resort, Affleck passed the script to his Chasing Amy director Kevin Smith, who read it and promised to walk the script directly into Harvey Weinstein's office at Miramax. Weinstein read the script, loved it, and paid Castle Rock their due, while also agreeing to let Damon and Affleck star in the film. In his recollection of the meeting, Weinstein asked about an out-of-place, mid-script oral sex scene, which Damon and Affleck explained was a test to see which studio executives had actually read the script.
After buying the rights from Castle Rock, Miramax gave the green light to put the film into production. Several well-known filmmakers were originally considered to direct, including Mel Gibson, Michael Mann, and Steven Soderbergh. Originally, Affleck asked Kevin Smith if he was interested in directing. He declined, saying they needed a good director and that he only directs things he writes and is not much of a visual director, but still served as one of the film's executive producers. Damon and Affleck later chose Gus Van Sant for the job, whose work on previous films like Drugstore Cowboy had left a favorable impression on the fledgling screenwriters. Miramax was persuaded and hired Van Sant to direct the film. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.